ask an ordinary person how many countries in the world recognize Israel, many would likely think it's simple. Israel has existed for over 75 years, has a powerful military, and a developed economy, so many assume it is recognized. When discussing the number of countries recognizing Israel, we often think immediately of the United Nations. The United Nations currently has 193 official member states, along with 2 permanent observers, the Vatican and Palestine. This number of 193 almost covers the entire world, from major powers like the US, China, and Russia to small island nations like Tuvalu or Nauru. As of 2025, Israel is officially recognized by only 159 out of the 193 UN member states. This means that over 30 countries still refuse to acknowledge Israel's legitimate existence. This is a rare phenomenon on the current world political map. Most countries, once established and stable, are widely recognized. But Israel is different. Why is that? And how did Vietnam establish diplomatic relations with Israel? Israel is a country with an area of only about 22,000 square kilometers, smaller than many parts. But this country is located in one of the world's most sensitive regions, the Middle East. It borders the Mediterranean Sea, a gateway connecting Asia, Europe, and Africa. Once a crossroads of civilizations, but now a hotspot of conflict. In this sensitive position, since its establishment, Israel has never escaped war or diplomatic disputes. Namely the issue of recognition or non-recognition. Their birth certificate was signed in 1948, when the State of Israel was officially established. Before even discussing which countries recognized it, the very next day, an Arab coalition including Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq launched a fierce attack. That was the first Arab-Israeli war, beginning a series of conflicts that continue to this day. Which countries were the first to recognize Israel? The US and the Soviet Union quickly recognized Israel. The US recognized it within minutes, and the Soviet Union, not because they had any particular affection, but because each side wanted to gain influence in the Middle East, a region rich in resources and strategic importance. Some European countries also recognized Israel, partly out of sympathy for Jews after the Holocaust of World War II. But Arab and Muslim countries view Israel as an occupier of Palestinian land. And of course, they did not recognize it at that time. After over 75 years, Israel is now officially recognized by 159 countries, representing about 80% of the world. Most Western countries, along with Russia, China, India, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and most of Africa and Latin America have diplomatic relations, but there are still over 30 countries that do not recognize it, most notably populous Muslim countries, such as Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, Afghanistan, and in Southeast Asia. Malaysia also does not recognize Israel. Additionally, some countries unfriendly with the US, like Cuba, North Korea, and Venezuela, also do not recognize Israel. Thus, the matter of Israel's recognition is very patchy. The West and many developing countries support it, while the Muslim world and some countries with unfriendly relations with the US do not recognize Israel. The question arises, why are there so many countries that do not recognize Israel? The first and biggest reason is the Palestine issue. When Israel was established in 1948, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians lost their homes and became refugees. Palestinians call this event the Nakba, meaning catastrophe. Since then, Israel has continued to control the West Bank, blockade the Gaza Strip, and occupy. For Muslim countries, recognizing Israel is equivalent to betraying Palestine. They always affirm that only when Palestine has an independent state will they accept Israel. Thus, the first reason is the Palestine issue, and the second reason is the religious issue. Religion specifically relates to Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a holy city for Jews, Christians, and Muslims. But when Israel declared Jerusalem its eternal capital, the entire Muslim world saw it as an insult. For them, East Jerusalem must be the capital of Palestine. That is why the world's most populous Muslim countries like Indonesia, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, with a total population of over 600 million, firmly refuse to recognize. The third reason is war and hatred. Since its founding, Israel and Arab countries have fought at least 5 major wars, in 1948, 1956, 1967. In particular, the Six-Day War in 1967 led Israel to capture more territory and further enrage Arab countries. Egypt and Jordan later signed peace agreements, but other countries like Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq still regard Israel as an eternal enemy. The ultimate reason is the global political narrative. This reason leads to the group of countries including Cuba, North Korea, and Venezuela not recognizing it. Because Israel is associated with the US, Israel receives strong support from the US. Therefore, countries that dislike the US, such as Cuba, North Korea, or Venezuela, also dislike Israel. And this is the US outpost in the Middle East. So, the issue of Israel not being recognized has several key factors.
The first factor relates to Palestine, as Friends of Palestine do not recognize Israel.
The second factor is religious, which also involves Palestine to some extent. The third factor is war. Having fought with others in the past, now they do not
because not every country can change its stance.
And the fourth factor relates to the US. Countries that dislike the US also dislike and do not recognize Israel. However, historically, there have been turnovers. Despite being surrounded by enemies, Israel has had notable diplomatic. Previously, the number of countries not recognizing Israel was higher than now, but some have decided to change their stance. In 1979, Egypt, one of Israel's biggest adversaries, signed an agreement with Israel and became the first Arab country to recognize. By 1994, Jordan also signed a peace treaty recognizing Israel. These were two crucial barriers that helped reduce pressure on Israel from its south and east. In 2020, the Abraham Accords emerged, with the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan engaging with Israel, opening embassies, and establishing direct flights. Thus, Israel gained a few more handshakes. Even Saudi Arabia, the global Islamic center, has negotiated, but they recognize many others like Poland. However, the war in Gaza over the past 2 to 3 years has frozen this progress, and perhaps many countries are considering reverting to not recognizing Israel.
So, we see that Israel has existed for over 75 years,
becoming one of the world's most developed economies.
Its GDP per capita is very high,
it has the strongest military in the Middle East, and top-tier technology. But this nation still lives in a state of ambiguity, recognized by most of the world but not by its closest neighbors.
So, what does being recognized or not recognized mean?
First, if a country does not recognize Israel, both sides treat each other as non-existent with no embassies, little diplomatic relations, and no signed agreements, including economics.
If recognized, Israel could sell its agricultural technology, medical equipment, and famous cybersecurity software to countries like Indonesia or Pakistan.
But due to non-recognition, they cannot sign official contracts. To trade, they must bypass, for example, through an intermediary company to enter the market, which is costly and inefficient.
Without recognition,
Israeli citizens wanting to travel to those countries are affected, making tourism, studying abroad, and business somewhat complicated.
Finally, there's the international image.
When an issue related to Israel is raised at the United Nations, many countries often vote against or boycott it. Because they do not recognize, they view Israel as occupying Palestinian land, leading to Israel being almost always criticized in international forums.
Simply put, non-recognition does not make Israel disappear, but it makes the country like a boycotted neighbor. You still live there, you're still strong, but around your house are people who refuse to shake hands, trade, do business, or even pass by your door, and may even throw stones. That is the situation Israel has endured for over 75 years, with many of its neighboring countries not recognizing it. So, what about Vietnam? How are the relations between Vietnam and Israel?
Vietnam currently has official diplomatic relations with Israel, with a key milestone in 1993 when the two countries formally established diplomatic ties. This was when Vietnam was post-reform, opening up to the world, and the Middle East had just seen the Oslo Peace Accords, making recognition of Israel easier. Vietnam chose this step not only to expand international friendships but also to leverage Israel's scientific and technological potential. It can be said that among many former adversaries of the US, Vietnam is one of the most open-minded.
All for the development of the country and its people.
High-level visits have increased, with ministers and leaders from both countries frequently meeting, promoting trade, science, and defense cooperation.
Because economically, Israel is small in area but a world leader in high technology.
For example, drip irrigation turns arid desert areas into fertile agricultural lands.
Vietnam is very interested in this field and has many programs sending students and agricultural engineers to Israel to study. Bilateral trade has at times exceeded $2 billion, with Vietnam's main exports being phones, textiles, footwear, and agricultural products. In return, Israel exports medical equipment, chemicals, defense technology, and especially high-tech agricultural products. In science and education, Israel and Vietnam collaborate quite a lot. Many Vietnamese students have participated in courses in Israel, as mentioned. These are fields that many may not pay attention to, such as agriculture and health. These are low-profile but very practical fields, helping many generations of Vietnamese learn it. Another notable point is defense cooperation. Israel is one of the suppliers of defense equipment and technology to Vietnam. This field is sensitive and rarely publicized, but everyone knows Israel has a top-tier defense and Vietnam also needs to modernize its military. Therefore, the two sides cooperate. Despite developing relations with Israel, Vietnam maintained earlier, as far back as 1988, Vietnam recognized the state of Palestine just days after the Palestine Liberation Organization declared its. Vietnam always supports the two-state solution, allowing Israel and Palestine to coexist, and this demonstrates that Vietnam has maintained its traditional friendship with Palestine in the Arab world, just effectively cooperating with Israel. It can be said that Vietnam's handling of relations with Israel is a typical example of a flexible and balanced multilateral diplomatic style. Vietnam has maintained its old friend, Palestine, while making a new friend, Israel. Both sentimental bonds and economic benefits are achieved, avoiding confrontational situations. To date, Vietnam-Israel relations continue to develop stably, particularly in the aforementioned fields. Thank you for following this story. If you find it interesting, please subscribe to The Hidden Ledger, turn on notifications. Now, please don't say goodbye. Please subscribe to the Noodle Edition channel so you don't miss any exciting videos.